Good morning, bonjour tout le monde. I want to start us out with a number. As of right now, the number of people forcibly displaced from their homes is the highest since World War II. According to the UNHCR, the United Nations Refugee Agency, 66 million people are living as refugees in another country or displaced within their own country. 66 million. So what we're going to do on this first panel this morning is take a look at what that means in cities that are trying to grapple with the number of people flowing in, and not just grapple with it, not just accommodate them, but integrate them into the life of that city. And we have on stage with us this morning 3 people with firsthand knowledge of that, and we're going to get to hear their stories. So welcome, all 3 of you. Thank you for being here this morning. Nastaran, I want to start with you. You were just introduced as working at PayPal in Berlin,
That's right.
which is what you do.
Yeah.
But your story of how you came to be there is pretty incredible. I want people to know you're from Tehran.
Yeah.
You left Tehran 4 years ago with 1 suitcase, not knowing you were not going home, and you arrived in Berlin and learned through a phone call that it would not be safe to go back home to Iran.
That's right.
Would you start us off by just sharing a little bit of what those first days and weeks were like arriving in Germany?
The first few months was quite intense for me. I mean, you have to go to a refugee center and introduce yourself as a refugee seeker. As soon as you do it, and they send you to some other center, and they send me to other state. It's upper state of Berlin, Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, middle of nowhere actually. It was definitely middle of nowhere, because when I got off the train station, even the taxi driver couldn't recognize this area that I was supposed to go and introduce myself. Anyway, I got there, and then the first few days, I refused to leave my my bed. I was in shock. And the chief of the Heim thought I went in hunger strike. She came to me and said, "Why you don't leave your bed? Why you don't eat anything?" And at that moment, I burst into tears, and I asked, "Can I have a job here?" It was my first question, because it makes my connection. I built my connection in Iran, all my entire friends, and all the connection, all the social etiquette, social status that I had. It was based on my job. It described who I am, at least for me, for myself. And then I lost it, and I lost all my connection, all my friends, everything that I know. And I just wanted to have it again. And it was the first important, beside my family and my friends, it was the first important thing that I wanted to have it. So she was surprised, and she said, "Yes, of course, but you have to wait for your process, and then later on you can have a job." And it took 8 months for me to get. And
you were moving to different parts of Germany and living in camps.
Exactly.
As you were trying to figure
2
out
times
this process.
they changed my camp.
Yeah. You, at some point along this journey, connected with the group that Robert founded. Yeah. We introduced you as the founder of Jobs for Refugees. It's a startup. You're based in Berlin. How did you 2 connect?
Well, thanks, first of all, for having us. Nastaran contacted us online. So Jobs for Refugees is an organization that helps people like Nastaran settle down here in Germany and find their way into the labor market, find a job, find an apprenticeship. And Nastaran signed up with us online, and then the journey, or our journey together, started, and we helped her end up where she is today.
And when you say helped her, I mean, what are some of the things that actually are the most helpful that you have found? It's making contacts and introductions. It's a big part of it. Yeah,
I mean, if for refugees in Germany, we find that there's obviously many hurdles, but the biggest barrier is, first of all, the cultural barrier and the bureaucratic barrier. And in terms of the bureaucracy, we help by supporting refugees apply for jobs, but also deal with all the bureaucratic red tape, but also support the employers, because they're also quite daunted by this big wall of bureaucracy. And in terms of cultural barrier, we found that a lot of people that came to us, came to Germany, even though they worked many years in their home country and often have quite a lot of experience, they never went through a formal application process because in different cultures, taking up work and selection processes work a lot different. So we try to level the playing field in that regard and support them with coachings and trainings, how to write a CV, how to interview, how to present yourself in an interview, a 2-minute elevator pitch.
Yeah, and you started when? Which year?
We started 2 years ago. It actually started out by myself being a volunteer in the summer of 2015. I think you all seen the images going around the world of Germans welcoming refugees at Munich Central Station. So I thought I also want to help and contribute. And I started out by doing what I thought I could do best, speak German. So I gave German lessons. And but speaking to the people themselves, I realized there's a different need that is much stronger, similar to what Nastaran just shared with you. It's the question, how can I find a job? Can you help me find a job? And that was kind of the first stone that got it rolling to found this organization in order to help refugees that came to Germany.
All right. Sylvain, let's bring you in. You work for the mayor's office here in Paris. You are dealing with both the immediate problem of people who are just arriving and then trying to figure out how you're going to integrate them medium and long term into society in Paris. And you advise the Refugee Intake Center here in Paris. Can I see a show of hands if people managed to make it out to the Refugee Intake Center? Okay, so several people here went out and visited the center yesterday. Before we hear a little bit more about your work, you were telling me that one of the most successful things you've done have been as simple as getting people out on a sports field together. And you brought a movie to show us to introduce a little bit. I wonder if we can get that up on screen so that we can all see a little bit of the work.
Il y a peut-être quelque chose à faire pour faire que ces réfugiés rencontrent le citoyen lambda francilien. Le mot faire collectif, faire solidaire.
On a tous immigré pour quitter notre pays pour venir vers la France.
On est là pour les aider, de partager 7 jours avec eux. Le football, c'est une langue universelle. T'as pas besoin de parler pour jouer au football.
C'est un peu la première étape dans une forme d'intégration. En tout cas, on espère qu'ils vont vivre une véritable aventure humaine pendant 6 mois.
Et on aimerait aussi ouvrir dès la première année le championnat aux femmes, donc avoir au moins 4 équipes.
وهو برنامج يعني نادرا يتعمل، ممكن على مدار السنه يكون مره واحده او مرتين، لكن شيء جميل خاصه انه يلعب مع بلدان اخرى وبيكون في اندماج، وبيكون في يعني تعارف حتى من الرياضه بتاعت الكوره بتنطلق
On est toujours là pour le tournoi, pour le football, pour tout. On est là.
Tell me about this program, how this came to be.
Well, at the beginning of the crisis in 2015, we all knew in Germany, in Paris, in Europe, that we should spend as much time, energy, and money on integration as on facing the emergency. But to tell you the truth, because my mayor is not here and my deputy mayor is not here, I can tell you the truth, we did not. We did not. It didn't happen.
Yeah.
When you start your day looking for a place in this tiny city, which is called Paris, to build a new shelter, to find doctors, to negotiate with your national government for new involvement, well, at the end of the day, you're just exhausted. And what's true at the individual level is true at the level of the city. So you don't spend as much energy you should on integration, on long-term issues. And how do we solve this problem? What's the key to think short-term and long-term issues at the same time? And the key is this movie. Nathalie, you saw in the movie, and Florent came to me 1.5 years ago and told me that they wanted just to help citizens from Paris and refugees to play soccer together. And I told them, OK, that's very nice, guys, but I just don't have time for you, because I'm looking for new shelters. I'm looking to face emergency. And I just give them a couple of phone numbers, NGOs, and maybe a little bit of money. And here it is. And this movie is now 6 months ago, and right now there are hundreds and hundreds of people playing every single week. And they are team
really?
made
You've
of,
got like a whole league up and running.
Wow. And with the Olympics, we are now, it's growing and growing and growing. So, and what's true for sports, it's true for culture, for learning French, and so on. It's just we won't cope with the situation if we try to act as a usual policy. We need to invent new way of implementing solutions, which include doing it with citizens and with refugees.
And I mean, part of that is you've got people as equals on a playing field, speaking French, and you see joy on their faces, which is not something that you associate with refugees pouring into a strange situation.
That is another key issue, is the idea of mutual exchange. When you focus on the emergency, you focus on finding a bed and food and maybe a doctor. You think about what I should give to the refugees. And sometimes you forget that the refugees you have in front of you, or aside you, they want to give. They want to give, they want to get involved in the society, and it's good for everybody. It's good for society, and it's good for the refugees themselves, because they feel useful. And sometimes we forget this, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that speaks to me from that video is the dignity that you hear in their voices, and that speaks to something you were talking about, Nastra, and how important it was for you from the very beginning of arriving in Germany, of having a job, contributing in some way to the society that had welcomed you. What was that path like from in the 4 years that you've been in Germany and made your way to where you are now?
Well, I was faced to severe consequences. So in the first year, I would say it was just passed through these different camps and then paperwork here, there, and then they sent me to German course, and I thought, okay, I don't need to learn German because I need a job first.
Yeah.
And it's an international city, Berlin, so I can easily find a job with my English skill. So I started to search for a job, and I realized, maybe my background education is not qualified as a German standard, so let's go back to university. I applied for a master's degree. At the same time, I took some courses, coding courses, because I got a bachelor in computer hardware. So I started both sides, and at the same time, I started looking for jobs. I couldn't, I don't know, based on in what kind of reason. I came from the Middle East, I'm a woman, or whatever. Always my CV was just disappear into outer space. It was no sign of any feedback. I mean, they didn't even contact me to say, I will receive your resume. So it was quite discouraging. And then I find jobs for refugee, and then I just hand over my CV, and they told me that they're gonna make sure they're gonna find a suitable job for me. And I realized that this is the best option that I can have. This is the best option any kind of refugee can have, because in the lack of any connection to the new society, this is the missing link. Because if you don't have this option, you cannot get a direct contact to the companies. You don't have any family, any friends, any connection, any previous employee, any previous employer, nothing. So you cannot just say, hey, do you remember me? Could you please pass over my CV to your boss or whatever? But they are calling the companies, and they try to convince them to pick specifically from the refugee So they ask, specifically the company already know what they're expecting, and among all the CVs they can pick. So it's a winning situation.
So the most important thing to you was having somebody who could help just kick that door open and make an introduction.
Exactly.
How do you go about persuading companies that this is a win-win? I mean, how do you make that relationship happen and persuade a company like PayPal or the other ones that you're working with that they need to open their door and welcome people?
Yes, I mean, this is a big part of the work that we do is to encourage German companies and international companies working in Germany to be open to hiring refugees and to be also in some regards more flexible when it comes to adjusting also to, for example, different language skills or different backgrounds in terms of skills. And in case of Nastaran, PayPal actually approached us saying, we want to also contribute to solving this challenge that we have in Germany, and we were looking to hire someone, and do you know anyone? So what we did is we have a network of 15,000 refugees in Germany in our database, and we use social media. We use Facebook to communicate these openings, and we did so as with the case with PayPal, and Nastaran also applied, and we then screened the applications then to forward to the company, and we also forwarded Nastaran's application, and they loved her, and now she's working there.
That's great news. Congratulations, a success story. How many people have you been able to place in the years that
We've been working for 2 years now, and we placed just over 100 refugees in jobs or apprenticeships or internships. And what you have to bear in mind is we started 2 years ago, and in the beginning it was really going to a refugee camp. We went to one specific refugee camp with our laptops, the two of us. We just opened our laptops, hung out signs saying in different languages saying we're here to help you find a job, and started speaking to the people, taking down their information. And then in the beginning it was just simple cold calling employers and saying, hey, are you open? And this is how this whole story kind of started. But now obviously we work, we're 2 years in, and we work with different kinds of technologies that facilitate our work. I mean, we have 15,000 data sets at the moment, so you cannot manage that with Excel anymore. So Salesforce actually is a great partner to us with their technology in order to manage all this information.
Yeah. And what about just cutting through the bureaucratic red tape? I mean, what help have you needed from government, either in Berlin or at the federal level in Germany, to try to make this happen?
I mean, the question of bureaucracy, I mean, we're in Germany. I think you all know the stereotype about German bureaucracy. It can be quite a lot. But you also have to bear in mind that almost 1.4 million people came since 2050 to Germany. So also the governmental structures and authorities are still overwhelmed with this huge challenge. And we established relationships through the relevant authorities in the city, well, in Berlin where we work. And it's a mutual understanding that we collaborate, and one of the very important chunks, as I already said, is really managing also the expectation, also taking the fear of employers and really making sure that they don't feel like this is a big challenge that they cannot overcome. And this is what we understand as our most important task when it comes to the bureaucracy, take their fears. To give the people a chance.
I'll put the same question to you. You know nothing of bureaucracy here in France, I'm sure. But you were describing a similar sense of urgency here, the number of people coming in, trying to deal with the immediate issue of just finding somewhere for them to sleep every night. Your boss, the mayor of Paris, who we all met yesterday, ordered you last summer, like, we gotta help these people off the streets, find a place for them to go. Tell me how that worked, setting up the refugee center here.
How that works, it's you wake up one day and you have a phone call, and you hear your mayor telling the people of Paris and the national state that we will not stand any more people in the streets, and that even if it's not what the city should do, because it's a job of the national state, then we will do it. And afterwards, I don't know, you find a place, you find people to help you, you find NGOs, and you do it with the citizens. And that's, from the beginning, the key. I guess...
you opened the first one last October,
we
so
opened
a year ago?
the first one in last October, and the second one in the one we visited yesterday in January.
Okay.
And the idea, we understand that people, the citizens, were not expecting us to have all the answers. And now we get that. But the people were expecting us to get focused on our values and to do the right thing with this amazing opportunity for Paris and for France and for Europe that these refugees represent. You know, some people are really tough on them, but we believe they are a great opportunity for everything, for our culture, for our economy, for everything. So once again, it's not just a question of what we should give them, it's a question of mutual exchange. And now we're launching a program, full-scale integration program. We are learning from our neighbors, because we know that we are late when we look at Berlin and Germany. And we are learning from our mistakes, and we know that we should start everything from day one. Integration starts the day you arrive in France. So day one, you need to be able to learn French, to improve your skills, to play soccer, to get to the theater, to meet people, to think about your future from day one. Yeah. Not waiting 3, 6, 9, 12 months until you get your file completed. Just day one.
That's a really important point, because obviously the goal is, you've set up these centers, then the goal is to help people get out of them as quickly as possible and start a life here. The language issue, which has kind of run through our conversation, but I want to just follow up on that, which is one of the approaches you have found has really made a difference, is getting people speaking French, even while their paperwork is going through the system. How do you actually do that? Do you have people coming into the center and tutoring?
Yesterday, we were in one of the shelters we built, and we met kids. And these kids didn't speak French 3 months ago. Yeah. And now they can speak French. Their parents don't speak French. But their parents won't speak French because they can see their kids understand French. And they get involved in our programs. And I have to say, when you're an adult, it takes a little bit more time, but with a good program, and once again, with teachers, as long as with citizens helping you, in a couple of months, you can speak French really easily. And yes, we believe, we just don't believe it, we see it. We know it's true. And that's the key. And if you speak French, you can do so many things, and you can start mutual exchange.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you have a similar, something like Robert has started in Germany, where you're actually trying to match people with the right employer and move them on?
Well, the legislation in French right now, in France, does not help us with this issue. You cannot work until you have your papers, until you are a refugee, like you have the status. So there will be a new legislation, sorry about my English, next January, and we hope that we can, change this part of the legislation.
Got it. And what about for you? What's been the biggest challenge placing refugees in a job? Is it the language issue? Is it cultural? What is it?
I mean, yes, the language is a challenge, but as I said, we really encourage to be more flexible on that side. And cultural issues also face us with some challenges, but I think Germany is improving in that regards, and employers are becoming more open, and we really see that the work that we do is starting to carry some fruits, and we're moving along. But I think also the fact is, working as an NGO, you always face the challenge of, on the one hand side, working operatively and making sure that you create some impact. But on the other hand side, we are an NGO that where the other chunk is also the making sure that you can secure your operations for the next year and secure funding. So you always have these two challenges that you need to balance as a small NGO. And we are a startup within our first 3 years, and so we're always looking for support on that side.
Nastra, and I give you the first word, and I want to give you the last word as well. your story is an amazing one of when cities get this right, the power of changing a life like yours. And I want to just ask where you see, what's next? When we all, gather back in 5 years, where do you want to be, and what would life look like?
I don't see myself as a normal, just an employee. I want to grow, and I think I owe myself and I owe German country to grow and to become better and better. And yeah, before I just get hired by PayPal, I was thinking about maybe it's better to open a company by my own, because if nobody wants to hire me, I'm gonna open my own company. But right now, I think okay, PayPal provided me a great chance, and it's a very innovative company. They let me to run my own project and be innovative there. I cannot think anything better to just grow with PayPal. Yeah.
And meanwhile, enjoy Paris, your first trip here.
Yes.
Great. Welcome. Thank you, and thank you to all three of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.